The air was crisp and filled with the scent of eucalyptus as Clara stepped off the coach into the morning light of Sydney's Blue Mountains. Behind her trailed her younger brother, Jamie, his eyes wide with wonder as they took in the rolling green landscape surrounding the new eco-adventure park known as Green Valley Reserve. The park had only recently opened, nestled quietly in the outskirts of Sydney, promising untouched beauty, wildlife encounters, and mystery. Clara had booked the trip as a surprise for Jamie's 12th birthday. She was determined to make it memorable, a break from the hum of city life and their increasingly complicated home situation. They were welcomed by Mr. Lawson, the park's lean and sun-worn guide, who smiled warmly as he extended a hand. "Welcome to Green Valley," he said. "You picked a perfect time to visit. Not many tourists and nature's blooming all around." Clara glanced at Jamie, who grinned with excitement. "Are there kangaroos here?" he asked. "Oh, plenty," Mr. Lawson chuckled. "And maybe, if you're lucky, something even rarer." They were shown to a rustic cabin with solar panels glinting on the roof. It was basic but cozy, nestled among tall trees with a view of the valley below. The silence was unusual, peaceful, but thick, as if the forest was watching. Later that afternoon, the group of guests gathered for orientation. Mr. Lawson handed each person a hand-drawn map, marked with trails and warning signs. He pointed to one shaded area with a red cross. "This section here, near the northern ridge, is off-limits. The terrain's unstable, and we're still conducting environmental studies. Best to stay on the paths." Jamie nudged Clara. "Let's go there," he whispered, eyes gleaming with mischief. Clara gave him a stern look. "Absolutely not. We follow the rules, remember?" But something in Jamie's expression suggested that his curiosity might get the better of him. That evening, the sky turned gold as the sun dipped behind the mountains. From their cabin, Clara heard the distant calls of birds and the soft creak of trees swaying in the wind. Jamie was scribbling in his sketchbook, drawing the animals they'd seen so far. She smiled, but the tranquility was short-lived. Just after sunset, there was a sudden rustling near the back of the cabin. Loud. Sharp. Not wind. Clara paused. "Did you hear that?" Jamie nodded, eyes wide. She grabbed the torch, stepped outside, and swept the beam across the edge of the bush. Nothing. But the noise had felt too deliberate, like something or someone had been there just out of sight. She returned inside, locking the door behind her. "It's just animals," she told Jamie, though her voice lacked certainty. But deep inside, a chill had taken root. The next morning broke with a soft mist clinging to the treetops and birdsong echoing through the valley like a gentle warning. Clara woke early, the uneasy feeling from the night before still lingering in her chest. Jamie was already up, crouched near the window, peering outside. "There's something out there," he whispered. "It's been moving through the trees." Clara joined him, but all she saw was the morning fog curling around the trunks like ghostly fingers. She sighed and ruffled his hair. "You're letting your imagination run wild." After breakfast, the guests were free to explore the marked trails. Clara chose the Koala Creek route, a moderate 2-hour walk through eucalyptus forest and open grassland. Jamie, though distracted, agreed. But as they reached a fork in the path, Clara noticed him slowing, glancing repeatedly at the unmarked trail veering left, towards the Forbidden Ridge. "Don't even think about it," Clara warned. Jamie shrugged, innocent. "Just wondering." As they hiked on, Clara couldn't shake the sense of being watched. The trees whispered with the wind, but every now and then, something snapped. Too close, too sharp. They passed no other guests. Not a bird stirred overhead. Back at the cabin, Clara showered and lay down to rest. But Jamie never returned to his sketchbook. He was restless, pacing by the door. Eventually, when she dozed off for a few minutes, he slipped away. She awoke to silence. Jamie was gone. Heart-pounding, Clara ran outside, calling his name. No answer. She ran to the ranger station, but it was empty. A note pinned to the door read, "Out on trail. Back before dusk." Clara grabbed a map and torch and sprinted toward the fork they had passed that morning. She knew where Jamie had gone. The forbidden path was overgrown, the plants thicker, the air damper. With each step, a strange buzzing sound grew louder, not insects, but a low vibration, like a hum from underground. Her stomach churned. Half an hour in, she found Jamie's water bottle wedged between roots. Then his sketchbook, lying open on the ground, showing a half-finished drawing of a creature she couldn't recognize. Long-limbed, pale, watching. She clutched the book to her chest and moved forward. Then, suddenly, a whisper, not from her mind, but real. "Clara." She froze. The voice was too deep to be Jamie's. It sounded like it came from everywhere. She turned, but the forest behind her was unchanged. Another whisper. "You should not be here." Clara stumbled backwards, breath catching. "Jamie," she cried out. A sharp scream tore through the trees. It was Jamie's voice. Clara broke into a run, lungs burning as she pushed through the thickening bushland. Branches clawed at her arms and legs, but she barely felt them. Jamie's scream had come from somewhere just ahead, but now the forest had fallen eerily silent again. She stopped to catch her breath. The silence was deafening. Then came a shift in the light. The trees opened slightly, revealing a narrow gorge choked with roots and fog. Clara stepped into it, heart hammering. The air grew colder, thicker, as if the forest was warning her to turn back. But she couldn't. She stumbled on something buried in the undergrowth. Reaching down, she uncovered Jamie's shoe. Torn. The laces snapped. That's when she heard it again. A whisper, but this time layered. Like more than one voice speaking at once. "He is ours now." Clara froze, her hand tightening around the torch. A low sound began to rise from the earth beneath her. A hum, rhythmic and unnatural, like a pulse. She looked down, the soil was moving. Breathing. She backed away, but the forest shifted behind her. The trees that had once stood straight were now curved inward, as though leaning to watch. Then came a sound from deeper in the hollow, scraping, wet and slow. She swung her torch toward it, the beam flickering. In its glow, a figure emerged from the mist. Tall. Emaciated. Its limbs too long, its head cocked sideways like a curious dog. Its eyes shimmered, not with light, but with something darker, reflective like wet stone. Clara gasped and took a step back. The creature moved, not with steps, but as if it slid, silently. It stopped just short of the torchlight's reach. "Jamie," Clara whispered. "Where is my son?" The thing tilted its head again. "He chose," it said in a voice like dry leaves scraping against metal. Clara shook her head. "He's a child. He didn't choose anything." The forest moaned behind her, the sound of trees groaning under pressure. She turned and saw another shape, smaller, standing between two trunks. "Jamie! Jamie!" she screamed. But he didn't respond. He didn't move. His face was pale. His eyes were wrong. Too wide. Too still. She ran to him, tears streaming. But when she reached him, he stepped back into the shadow, vanishing. The tall figure was closer now. "He is becoming," it murmured. Clara turned wildly, shouting his name. Echoes bounced back at her, warped, slow, mocking. Then the earth split. Just a crack, no wider than a finger, but from it came a sound so deep, so ancient, that Clara dropped to her knees. It was not a growl. It was a call. And Jamie answered. From behind the trees, he stepped into view again, smiling, but not with his own smile. His eyes glowed faintly. "Come with me, Mum," he said. Clara stood frozen, unable to move. Jamie's voice had sounded like him, but not quite. There was something hollow in it, something borrowed. She took a cautious step forward. "Jamie, love, it's me. It's Mum." He didn't respond. His smile remained fixed, unnatural. Too wide. The mist curled tighter around them, turning the space between them into a swirling veil. Clara stepped forward again, torchlight flickering across Jamie's pale face. "Jamie, I know you're scared. Whatever this thing is, don't listen to it. You're stronger than it." For a moment, something flickered in Jamie's eyes. Recognition. Fear. Then his mouth opened slowly. Do you remember the lake, Mum? Clara's breath caught in her throat.
Yes.
She remembered. It was 3 years ago. Jamie had fallen in, and she had jumped in after him, dragging him out with barely a second to spare. He had cried in her arms, soaked and shivering. He had nearly drowned. But she had saved him. Clara's eyes filled with tears. Of course I do. I was there. I held you. I kept you safe. Jamie's smile faltered. I wasn't scared that day, he said. Clara frowned. Yes, you were. You cried. You. I wasn't scared, he repeated, voice deeper now. It echoed strangely, like more than one version of him was speaking. The figure behind him, the tall thing, seemed to shift, becoming less solid, more like smoke stitched into flesh. He was offered safety, it rasped. But he remembers the cold, the silence. He remembers being alone. Clara felt her stomach twist. You're lying, she said, barely above a whisper. Jamie stepped forward. Just one step. His feet didn't quite touch the ground. I heard them, he said. In the water. They spoke to me. Promised they'd never leave me. Not like you. Clara shook her head. I never left you. I'm still here. But the fog thickened, and Jamie's voice grew distant. I waited, he said. You took too long. The forest around her grew darker. The trees bled shadow. And the whispering returned, now a chorus of voices, all too familiar. They spoke in overlapping phrases, stolen from her memories. Jamie's first word. His giggle. The way he used to say, "Good night, Mum," before bed. All twisted.
Wrong.
Give him back, Clara begged. Please, I'm begging you. The tall figure loomed closer, its face shifting, no longer a face at all, but a mask of shadows. It extended a hand. You may follow, it said, but you cannot return. Clara looked past it to Jamie, who watched her with empty eyes. Her heart pounded in her chest. She could run. She could scream. But she knew, somehow, it would be useless. To save Jamie, she had to go deeper. She stepped forward. The ground gave way beneath her. And Clara fell. Clara plunged into a darkness, so complete, she lost all sense of direction. The air was thick and cold, filled with the scent of wet soil and decay. Her torch had vanished from her grasp, leaving her surrounded by blackness.
But she could feel something.
The ground beneath her was no longer forest floor. It felt like flesh, pulsing gently underfoot. She forced herself to stand, steadying her breath. Jamie, she called, voice trembling. No answer. Instead, faint whispers began to rise from the unseen walls. Murmured words. Her own voice among them. Words she had spoken in anger, in fear, in grief. You're just like your father. Why can't you be normal? I need some space, Jamie. Clara pressed her hands over her ears. Stop it. That's not who I am. A soft glow began to grow ahead, a dim, greenish light oozing through twisted roots that hung like curtains. She moved towards it, pushing through the tangled mass. On the other side, she found herself in a vast underground chamber. The ceiling was formed of knotted roots, dripping with dark water. The walls pulsed like muscle. And in the center of the chamber was a stone table. Jamie lay upon it. He looked asleep. Peaceful, even. Clara rushed to him. Jamie. Sweetheart, I'm here. As her hands touched him, a cold shock ran up her arms. His skin was ice. Wake up, baby. Please, wake up. Behind her, something stirred. She turned slowly. The tall figure had returned. But it no longer wore shadows. It had taken a shape she recognized. Her own. It looked like her. Moved like her. Even spoke like her. Let him go, Clara demanded. The creature smiled. He's mine now. I speak his fears. I soothe his pain. I give him the love you held back. Clara shook her head. That's not true. I love him more than anything. You love the idea of him, it whispered. Not the boy who cries too much. Not the boy who asks too many questions. Not the boy who needs more than you have to give. Clara's throat tightened. You're twisting everything. The creature stepped closer. Its eyes, her eyes, were empty. He came to me because you stopped listening. He came to me because he was alone. Clara dropped to her knees beside Jamie. You're not alone, she whispered to him. I'm here. I'll always be here. The light began to flicker. Jamie's fingers twitched. The creature snarled. He belongs to me. No, Clara said, rising to her feet. He belongs to no one. He's not a possession. Not yours. Not even mine. He's a child. He needs love, not control. The walls trembled. The roots quivered. The light grew stronger. Jamie opened his eyes. They were filled with tears. Mum, he whispered. Clara ran to him, pulled him into her arms. Yes, darling. I've got you. The creature let out a scream that wasn't human. The walls began to crack, roots splitting open. Shadows burst from every surface, clawing at Clara, trying to pull her back. But she held Jamie tightly. I won't let go, she said. They ran. Through tunnels that shifted, through corridors of bone and root and smoke. The monster shrieked behind them, its stolen voice filling the air. But Clara didn't stop. She ran towards the faintest glow ahead, a light that felt real, felt warm. And then, they burst through. They emerged gasping, coughing, and soaked with earth. Clara blinked against the sudden light, real light, of the early morning sun filtering through tall eucalyptus trees. The clearing was still. Quiet. The whispering was gone. The chill had lifted. And Jamie was still in her arms. Alive. Breathing. Clara collapsed to her knees, cradling him tightly as his small arms wrapped around her. Neither of them spoke for a long moment. There were no words left. Only breath and touch, and the truth that they were no longer inside that place. But when Jamie finally pulled back, there was something strange in his eyes. He wasn't just frightened. He was different, changed. I saw her, he whispered. Clara brushed the dirt from his face. The woman? Jamie nodded. She said I didn't have to feel bad anymore. That you'd be happier if I left. Clara's breath caught. She showed me a room, Jamie went on. It was full of drawings. All the ones I threw away. She said they were safe with her. Clara closed her eyes. They were beautiful. I never should have let you think they weren't. Jamie looked down at his hands. I wanted to stay there. It felt nice. But it wasn't real, was it? No, Clara said gently. It wasn't. That place feeds on our fears. Our pain. It uses it to trap us. Jamie didn't answer right away. Then he said, It looked like you. Clara felt her chest tighten. It did to me, too. They sat in silence, the wind stirring the trees above them. Insects buzzed lazily in the air. It should have felt peaceful. But something wasn't right. Clara stood slowly. We have to go. Come on, let's get back to the others. They followed the tree line until they reached the forest edge. A road shimmered in the distance. Clara recognized it. The main path to the caravan park. Relief washed over her like a tide. But as they stepped onto the asphalt, a figure stood ahead. Detective Lark. But something was off. He was clean. Too clean. Not a trace of mud or sweat. No sign that he had spent the night scouring the forest. And then he smiled. Not kindly. Not human. Jamie gripped her hand. Mum. Clara stepped in front of him. What do you want? The figure tilted his head. You brought him back. Impressive. Few ever do. You're not real. Real enough. He took a step forward. Do you know what you've done, Clara? You've taken something that belongs to us. The boy is touched. Sensitive. He hears what most ignore. Clara's voice was steady. He hears me now. And that's enough. The thing wearing Lark's face paused. It won't last. The world is too loud. Too cruel. He'll come back. They always do. Jamie stepped forward beside her. No. I won't. The thing looked at him, long and hard. Then, with a flicker, it vanished. Just like that. Gone. Clara dropped to one knee, taking Jamie's face in her hands. You all right? He nodded. Tired. Me too. She carried him the rest of the way back. When they arrived, the park was bustling with search teams, flashing lights, and frantic voices. But they didn't rush forward in alarm. They simply stood,
Silent.
watching, as though they had seen a ghost. Clara and Jamie had returned, but they hadn't come back alone. Clara sat in the sterile hospital corridor, the hum of overhead lights pressing down on her like a weight. Jamie was asleep inside the room, curled up beneath thin sheets. Doctors had said he was dehydrated, malnourished, disoriented, but otherwise unharmed. They had no words for the strange burns along his neck, or the spiral-shaped scar etched into his shoulder. Detective Lark, the real Lark, sat beside her now, his once sharp manner softened, dulled by the events of the past few days. He held a manila folder, but he hadn't opened it. "I looked into the previous disappearances," he said finally. Most of them weren't linked. Scattered reports over decades. A child here, a couple of hikers there. But one thing kept coming up. He tapped the folder, a name. Clara turned to him. Dahlia Finch. Her breath froze. She was a botanist. Lived up in the Blue Mountains. Isolated. People said she was strange. Brilliant, but obsessive. Especially with children. No criminal record, but there were whispers. That she lost her own child, maybe two. Then one day she vanished. Left behind her house, her papers. All of it. Clara swallowed. "So, what, you think she's?" "I think something in that forest wears her face. Whether it's her ghost, or something older. I don't know." Silence fell between them. Clara stared at her trembling hands. Jamie said she made him feel safe. She fed off that. Off him wanting to disappear. She manipulated him. "She mirrored me," Clara whispered. "All the guilt I carried, all the things I thought I'd hidden from him. She twisted them." Lark nodded. "They always do." Clara looked up. "You've seen it before." His jaw tightened. "I've seen the aftermath." He stood then, setting the file beside her. "I can't explain what happened in that forest. But if you see anything strange, anything, you come to me first." Clara nodded. He paused at the door. "One more thing. When we found Jamie's drawings, they weren't just under your bed. They were spread out, neatly, like someone had laid them out." Clara felt a chill pass through her. Lark left. Alone again, she slipped into Jamie's room. His chest rose and fell with steady breaths. For a moment it was enough. But then she saw it. On the bedside table. A leaf. Not just any leaf.
Wide. Dark.
Unnatural. She picked it up slowly. It was cold to the touch.
Wrong.
Clara dropped it into the rubbish bin and closed the lid. But as she did, she heard it. Not aloud. Inside her. A whisper. Just one word.
Soon.
3 weeks passed. Clara did not return to the forest. Not physically. But her mind did every night, without fail. She dreamt of twisted trees with hollow mouths, of Jamie vanishing between roots that moved like serpents. She heard whispers in the walls of her flat. Caught glimpses of long, wiry hair in the mirror. She told herself it was exhaustion.
Trauma.
The lingering weight of fear. But deep down, Clara knew better. Jamie, too, changed. He no longer drew the forest. That had stopped abruptly. Now he drew clocks. Hundreds of them. Clocks with no hands.
Clocks melting.
Clocks that opened like eyes. One morning, Clara found him staring out the window. "What are you thinking about?" she asked softly. He didn't answer right away. Then he said, "She's still waiting." Clara felt her stomach drop. "Jamie, did you see her again?"
He shook his head.
"Not since the hospital." A pause. "But I hear her. Sometimes. When I close my eyes." Clara knelt beside him. "You're safe now. You're here with me." Jamie's gaze drifted to her, but there was something distant in it.
She said you'd say that.
She said you'd forget. That evening, Clara visited Detective Lark. She placed Jamie's newest drawings on his desk. He flipped through them silently. "They're different," he murmured. Clara nodded. "He says he hears her." Lark looked up. You've felt it too, haven't you? She hesitated, then whispered, yes. They exchanged a long, quiet look. I didn't want to tell you this, Lark said, but last night a couple went missing. Same forest, same trail. Dog came back alone, scratched, covered in that same black moss. Clara's breath caught. It's still happening. He leaned back in his chair. I think we need to go back. Find what she left behind. Clara blinked. Why me? Because she marked you. You and Jamie. And because whatever she is, she's not done. The words rang like a bell in her mind. Not done. The next morning, Clara left Jamie with her sister. She packed a small bag, filled it with practical things, flashlight, compass, matches, and then she took one thing she hadn't used in years, a tiny silver necklace, once her mother's. Lark met her at the forest edge. No words were needed. They stepped into the trees, and the forest welcomed them like it had been waiting all along. They walked deeper into the forest, the trees growing denser, their branches twisting and intertwining like skeletal fingers. The air grew thick with a dampness that clung to their skin, and every step seemed to echo in the silence that surrounded them. Clara felt the familiar chill crawl up her spine. Do you feel it? Lark asked, his voice low. Clara nodded. Like it's alive, watching us. Lark paused, glancing around. It knows we're here. They continued, the sound of their footsteps muffled by the thick moss beneath their boots. The deeper they ventured, the more the forest seemed to change. The trees grew darker, their bark shifting from brown to an unsettling black. Clara noticed that some of the trunks had strange markings, symbols she didn't recognize, carved deep into the wood. There, Lark said, pointing ahead. At the center of the trees stood a large, gnarled oak. Its trunk was wider than any tree Clara had ever seen, and its roots seemed to stretch out like claws, burrowing into the ground. A faint, unnatural glow emanated from the base of the tree, as if something was waiting to be uncovered. Clara's heart raced. This is it, isn't it? Lark nodded. This is where it began. They approached cautiously, their eyes scanning the area. The air felt thick, heavy with something ancient. As they neared the tree, Clara's stomach twisted, and she felt an overwhelming urge to turn back. But she couldn't. They were too close now. Lark knelt down beside the roots, pulling aside the thick layer of moss. Beneath it, something glimmered. Clara knelt beside him. What is it? Lark reached out, his fingers brushing against the object. It was a small, silver pendant, the same one Clara had seen in her nightmares. She froze. It was her mother's pendant. Before she could speak, Lark stood up quickly, his face pale. Clara, I think we're too late. Suddenly, the ground beneath them trembled. The trees began to sway, their leaves rustling in an unnatural wind. The glow from the tree intensified, casting an eerie light over everything. A low, guttural voice echoed through the air. You should never have come back. Clara's breath caught in her throat. From the shadows, something began to emerge. It was her, the woman from her dreams. Clara stepped back, her heart pounding. No, this can't be real. But the figure stepped forward, its eyes locked onto hers. The face was hauntingly familiar, yet distorted. It was as if the woman was not quite human, her features shifting and warping with every movement. Lark grabbed Clara's arm, pulling her away from the tree. We need to leave.
Now.
But Clara couldn't move. She was frozen, her gaze fixed on the figure in front of her. The woman spoke again, her voice like a whisper carried on the wind. You are mine, Clara. And then everything went black. Clara woke with a start, gasping for breath as the darkness pressed in around her. She was no longer in the forest, no longer by the great oak. She was lying on the cold, hard ground in what seemed to be an old, abandoned house. The walls were cracked, the air thick with dust, and the faint smell of decay hung in the air. Her heart raced as she tried to sit up, but her body felt heavy, as if something was weighing her down. A voice, cold and familiar, echoed through the room. You've come far, Clara. Too far, perhaps. Clara froze, her breath hitching. She knew that voice. It was hers, but it wasn't. It was a twisted version of her own, filled with malice and a haunting echo. "I know what you want," the voice continued. "You came to find the truth, didn't you?" Clara glanced around, trying to find the source, but the room was empty. "You think you've learned something, that you've gained control. But you haven't. You never will," the voice taunted. Suddenly, the shadows in the corner of the room shifted. The air grew colder, and the figure appeared. It was the same distorted woman, her eyes locked onto Clara's with an almost predatory intensity. "You belong to me, Clara. You always have," the woman whispered, stepping forward. "The pendant was only the beginning. You are the key." Clara's mind raced. She couldn't breathe.
She needed to understand.
"What do you mean? What do you want from me?" The woman smirked, her lips curling into a cruel smile. "I want your soul, Clara. I want the part of you that you don't even know is missing." A chill ran down Clara's spine as the woman raised her hand, her fingers crackling with dark energy. The air around them pulsed, thick with malevolent power. "Clara, you have two choices," the woman said, her voice now echoing through Clara's mind. "You can leave, walk away from this, and let the darkness take what it wants. Or you can stay and fight, face the truth, and claim what is rightfully yours. Your soul or mine." Clara's heart hammered in her chest. She had come too far, faced too much, to back down now. But the weight of the decision was overwhelming. "You have one chance, Clara. Choose wisely." Clara stood, her body trembling, but her resolve hardening. The woman's eyes bore into her, as if waiting for her answer. Clara took a deep breath, her hands shaking as she clutched the pendant. It was her mother's. It was hers. She knew what she had to do. Without a word, Clara stepped forward, ready to face whatever came next. The choice was hers. The battle had only just begun.